students, welcome back to All 4C Learning session 37. In previous session we learned how to prepare chloroform or haloform from ethyl alcohol in primary alcohol family ethyl alcohol and the secondary alcohol family isopropyl alcohol, and also acetaldehyde ketone acetone, how to prepare, how many moles of chlorine generally we have to use as oxidizing agent, as a chlorinating agent, and with what number of carbon atom containing carboxylic acid we are getting as a byproduct. Such reactions already we learned. Now, preparation of chloroform, other methods are there. Let us see that methods. Industrial method. Chloroform can be prepared in large scale by reduction of carbon tetrachloride in presence of iron fillings and water. Carbon tetrachloride CCl4 upon reduction in presence of iron fillings and water, then we are getting CHCl3 and HCl. See here, this reaction reverses to halogenation of methane. Methane upon halogenation, first we are getting chloromethane, and next methylene chloride, and third one chloroform, fourth one carbon tetrachloride. Now reverse to that, carbon tetrachloride upon reduction we are getting chloroform. But you should remember one point here, not only chloroform, along with that chloroform we are getting other products like CH2Cl2 means CH3Cl. Because of this is reduction, iron fillings and water, of course we are not using any acid, as we know that metal and water reaction, it liberates hydrogen, nascent hydrogen, that one only acts as reducing agent. So in this method we can prepare large scale of chloroform, but we are not supposed to get pure chloroform. Answer, the chloroform what we are preparing in this method, preferably they are using as solvent, but we are not supposed to get any pure chloroform. If you want to get pure chloroform, means pure chloroform can be prepared from chloral hydrate. What is this chloral hydrate? In previous session we learned that chloral is nothing but trichloroacetaldehyde. So acetaldehyde CH3C double bond OH, acetaldehyde upon chlorination. So Cl, 3 moles of chlorine. Let us use 3 moles of chlorine in presence of base. Then we are getting CCl3 C double bond OH. This is what we call the chloral. Now I mentioned that from chloral hydrate. So chloral hydrate is nothing but instead of this double bond O, CCl3 Cl C, instead of double bond O, OH and H. So simply CCl3 CH OH taken twice. This is called chloral hydrate. Chloral hydrate. So instead of double bond O, 2 OH groups are there. Once we need to stop here. Sir, how sir? In previous sessions we was already learned that no one carbon is going to bear 2 OH groups. That means jump divols are highly unstable. If jump divols are highly unstable, here also you write a COH. That means it is also jump divol. When it is also jump divol, how this can be stabilized? Yes, this one is not that much stable, but in that session only we learned that in order to stabilize the jump divols, we need to use strong electron withdrawing groups. Regard that, as we discussed, jump divols are highly unstable, right? But these jump divols can be stabilized by keeping electron withdrawing groups to the adjacent carbon. Here, with respect to this OH, adjacent carbon is this one, functional group containing carbon, and adjacent carbon this one attached to 3 strong electron withdrawing groups Cl. Because of the presence of 3 Cl atoms here, chloral hydrate can be stabilized. Of course, stabilized means it's not quite that much stable. Okay, of course it's stable, but that much only. But it is not more stable because of 3 chlorine atoms, right? And this chloral hydrate in general, people are using in preparing landmines. So what is the concept of landmines? When you apply pressure, what happens? When you apply pressure and release it, obviously it will be blast. So this chloral hydrate is that much stable. Hope you understand. Stable means not extraordinarily stable until we can use in our chemical reaction. Okay. Now this chloral hydrate can be stabilized, and remember that in general halogen atom is not going to take part in hydrogen bond. Halogen atom is not going to take part in hydrogen bond. Which halogen? Chlorine, bromine, like that. So preferably 3 atoms are there: oxygen, nitrogen and fluorine. These 3 generally involves in hydrogen bonding because of in order to form hydrogen bond, atom must be small in size and more electronegative, and it should possess lone pair of electrons. So here, when you apply the same qualities for chlorine, being its large size, it is not able to form hydrogen bonding. Generally we learn like that. But chlorine also shows hydrogen bonding preferably in 2 compounds. One is orthochlorophenol. In orthochlorophenol, chlorine shows hydrogen bonding, and in chloral, trichloroacetaldehyde, hydrated trichloroacetaldehyde, chloral hydrate, here also hydrogen bonding is possible in between hydrogen and chlorine. In between these 2, hydrogen bonding exists. So because of presence of this hydrogen bonding, chloral hydrate is stable. As we discussed that, because of presence of strong electron withdrawing groups like C double bond O group or CF3 group or CCl3 group, whenever such groups are present with respect to the OH containing carbon, beta carbon or adjacent carbon in such a place, but not somewhere. If that CF3 or CCl3 groups are somewhere in the carbon chain, that's not criteria. That electron withdrawing groups must and should be present at beta carbon, right? So here this is beta carbon and should be attached to 3 chlorine atoms. Since presence of 3 chlorine atoms, it stabilizes gem dipoles, and here hydrogen bonding. Which hydrogen bonding? Within the molecule, not in between 2 molecules. This is what we call intramolecular hydrogen bonding. This is what we call intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Within the molecule, hydrogen bonding exists. Now, such chloral hydrate I am going to use. This chloral hydrate, CCl3, CHOH taken twice. This one upon heating with base alkali, NaOH, then we are writing CHCl3 plus HCOONA. Again, have a look here. How many carbon atoms are there in the initial substrate? Chloral hydrate is obtained from acetaldehyde, and acetaldehyde consists 3 carbon atoms. Chloral also consists 2 carbon atoms. Acetaldehyde consists 2 carbons. Chloral also consists 2 carbons, and chloral hydrate also consists 2 carbons, right? Now, of which 1 carbon comes out as chloroform, and the remaining carbon only comes out as sodium salt of carboxylic acid. That means HCOONA we are getting as byproduct. So, whether industrial method, carbon tetrachloride, upon reduction with iron fillings and water, you are getting chloroform. And second one, from chloral hydrate upon reaction with sodium hydroxide, we are getting chloroform and sodium formate. These are the methods of preparation of chloroform. Let us see physical properties of chloroform. When you come to physical properties, chloroform is a sweet smelling, colorless liquid. As we learned in the previous session, what do you mean by sweet smelling? When you inhale that liquid, means that chloroform, you are getting pleasant, means if you want to take one more time, repeatedly you want to take, means your brain is asking you, I need one more time. So it never satisfies. So chloroform has such a great smell, means a sweet smell, and a colorless liquid, just like water. So it is a sweet smelling liquid and also colorless liquid, and it is a heavy liquid. Compared to water molecular weight is 18, but CHCl3 more than that. That's why it is heavy. So a heavier liquid, and also its density is more than water. Density is more than water. So how much density has? 1.485 gram per ml. So density almost 50% more than water for chloroform. So colorless liquid with sweet smell and heavy liquid and density also high. Boiling point 334 Kelvin means around 60 degrees Celsius. Around 60 degrees Celsius. So boiling point 60 degrees Celsius means, what do you say? It has a less boiling point than water. It has less boiling point than water. So water boiling point 100 degrees Celsius, chloroform boiling point 60 degrees Celsius. When you take in your palm, it absorbs heat energy from your body and it will goes to vapor state. So chloroform preferably used as a solvent, because when we are using this chloroform as a solvent, no need to separate the compound by using any external methods, because that chloroform can easily goes to vapor state. The compound which you prepared, it remains there only. I hope you got the point. When you are using some other solvents which are having high boiling point, again you need to use separate techniques to separate the original compound which you prepared from the solvent which we are using there. But when we are using chloroform as a solvent, because of its boiling point is very less, hence when you keep it open air, it slowly absorbs heat energy and it will goes to vapor state. Means it is more volatile liquid. We can say it is volatile liquid, and when you take in your palm, it will take energy from your body and it will leave away. Next, chloroform, if once it absorbs heat energy from your body, obviously you will get a burning sensation. Where you place the chloroform, there what happen? It sucks that heat energy from your body, and all of a sudden at that place, particular place, body energy falls down, and immediately your body is trying to keep up that temperature. It has to maintain. That's why. So even though after reaching that particular temperature, the body is going to function in the same manner, hence you are getting burning sensation. I am repeating. Once you place in any part of your body, initially you will feel much cool because it is absorbing heat from your body, hence you feel much cool. So that feeling is good. And after evaporation of the chloroform, what happened? You feel that burning sensation. So until unless chloroform is there in your body, you feel cool. But once it vaporizes, it turns to how you feel. You feel much burning sensation. Again you have to keep your hand under tap water. Otherwise, it will not come down to normal temperature. And insoluble in water, as you know that, like dissolves like principle, polar solvents are soluble in, polar compounds are soluble in polar solvents, non-polar compounds are soluble in non-polar solvents. Here, chloroform, which is non-polar, being non-polar, it preferably soluble in organic solvents, non-polar solvents like alcohol, ether, etc. So in such solvents it is more soluble, and chloroform being liquid, it is non-inflammable. It is being liquid, it is non-inflammable, but its vapors burns with green flame. Chloroform vapors burns with green edged flame, means it gives green color flame. That what we call green edged flame is going to burn with green edged flame. And next one is it causes temporary unconsciousness. Once upon a time, chloroform was used as anesthetic for making major surgeries. But later on, the people came to know by using more and more chloroform, liver get damaged. So that's why right now it was replaced by some other halothane. Okay, gaseous anesthetics. Once upon a time, it was used as anesthetic for major surgeries. But right now, not using that, and instead of that, we are using halothane. Okay, these are physical properties of chloroform. So when we are using chloroform as an anesthetic, there are few obstacles. Means it may cause death. Chloroform, when we are using as anesthetic, it may cause death because of Chloroform is light sensitive. Chloroform is light sensitive. It readily undergoes photochemical oxidation. So CHCl3 upon oxidation in presence of sunlight, it undergoes oxidation and it converts into COCl2 and HCl. This COCl2 is called carbonyl chloride, also called phosgene. This phosgene is a poisonous gas. Carbonyl chloride, C double bond O, Cl and Cl, here carbon is sp2 hybridized. So carbonyl chloride, if you observe, this one is derivative of carbonic acid H2CO3. In H2CO3, C double bond O, OH, in place of OH, Cl is there. So carbonyl chloride is also called phosgene, which is a poisonous gas. So being poisonous gas means chloroform, when you administer it as anesthetic to a particular patient, if it is spoiled, if it is oxidized, when it exposed to sunlight, so obviously it converts into phosgene. So when it converts into phosgene, if you administer phosgene to patient, then what happens? It leads to death. So chloroform, it is light sensitive. Being light sensitive, when we are going to store chloroform, you have to take 3 precautions. Precaution number 1. So first of all, you have to fill up to brim. Up to brim you have to fill. Means you are not supposed to leave any space, because if you are filling up to here, then this is nothing but space, means air is there. So when air is there, then obviously oxygen will be there. If oxygen is there, if any influence of sunlight undergoes oxidation, so to avoid that photochemical oxidation, first precaution what you have to take, you have to fill up to brim. Point number 1. Point number 2, you have to use the amber colored bottles. Amber colored bottles, dark bottles, because dark bottles do not allow sunlight. That's why if you observe major syrups, are dark bottles, amber colored bottles. We are not using generally transparent bottles. When we are using transparent bottles, what happens? It allows sunlight. So in presence of sunlight, chemical reaction may take place. Here, when chloroform also stored, better to use the amber colored bottles or dark colored bottles which do not allow sunlight or which cuts sunlight. That's why we can prevent photochemical oxidation. What is the first one? We have to fill that liquid up to brim. Means when we are using some amount, so you are not supposed to keep that bottle like that. Okay. So what happened? When you are using some amount, again you have to fill the bottle up to brim and you have to close. And second precaution, we need to fill in amber colored bottles, but not transparent colored bottles. Got the point? And third one, while storing, we have to use 1% ethyl alcohol. 1% ethyl alcohol. Why? What is the purpose here? 1% ethyl alcohol concept watch. So if any photochemical oxidation takes place, if along with that chloroform, phosgene also there, formation also there. So whenever phosgene is there, in order to remove that phosgene, this 1% ethyl alcohol will be utilized. I am repeating once again. While storing that chloroform, we have to add a little amount of 1% ethyl alcohol. When you are adding 1% ethyl alcohol, what happens? If any chloroform undergoes photochemical oxidation, this one gives phosgene, means chloroform, formed poisonous gas chloroform. Upon reaction with ethyl alcohol, we are getting diethyl carbonate, which is non-poisonous, plus 2HCl. This one also we can write as C2H5 taken twice CO3. Diethyl carbonate. I am repeating. If photochemical oxidation takes place, even though we are taking earlier 2 precautions, like we need to fill up to brim and we have to keep in amber colored bottles, still there is a chance for photochemical oxidation, light based oxidation. Hence, is there any chance for formation of phosgene? If phosgene formation takes place, unexpectedly if you administer the same gas, same chloroform to patient, then he may lead to die. that it may lead to dye. That's why to avoid that, what we are doing? 1% ethyl alcohol when we added along with chloroform, if any phosgene formation is there, that immediately reacts with ethyl alcohol. Poisonous phosgene reacts with ethyl alcohol and it converts into non-poisonous diethyl carbonate. Then there is no poisonous phosgene. Means it removes that poisonous phosgene from the mixture and converts into diethyl carbonate. So how we came to know, is there any test? Is there any test to find out whether chloroform is pure or impure? Whether chloroform is pure or impure. Can you identify? Yes, you can identify by using silver nitrate. What is that? Silver nitrate. How, sir? Basically, chloroform CHCl3. Here, chlorine is not ionic. This one is non-polar. Chloroform is non-polar. Chloroform cannot furnish any Cl minus ion. It cannot provide any Cl minus ion. Remember that? It cannot provide any Cl minus. So, if it is pure chloroform, when we are adding silver nitrate, you are not supposed to get any AgCl. You are not supposed to get any AgCl. So, being CHCl3 is non-ionic, it is non-polar. Being non-polar, it is not supposed to provide any Cl minus. When it is not supposed to provide any Cl minus, even though when we are adding AgNO3, you are not getting any AgCl white precipitate. If this chloroform spoiled, means it undergoes photochemical oxidation, then in such a case what happened? Phosgene. Along with that phosgene, again you should remember, this phosgene, COCl2 also non-ionic. It is not going to furnish any Cl minus. But along with this phosgene, HCl is there. When we are adding silver nitrate, this HCl reacts with AgNO3 and in this case you are getting AgCl white precipitate. That means impure chloroform can give white precipitate with silver nitrate. Pure chloroform cannot give white precipitate with silver nitrate. So what is that white precipitate we are getting? That is AgCl. From where you are getting Cl? From phosgene? No, it is non-ionic. From chloroform? No, it is non-ionic. But from where you are getting? It is obtained from HCl. This is the test for purity of chloroform. And next session we will learn chemical properties.